Next is gonna be edge control. Now, I'm not talking about what goes on your hair. I'm talking about holding the edges in your skates, getting comfortable with that. This is more of a concept than it is a technique or a move. But the idea of edge control is, number one, the fundamentals of edges is you have three edges. You have your outer edges, you have your inner edges, and you have your center edges, all right? I'm only exaggerating this so you can clearly tell that I'm putting the weight on the outside of my skates, right? On the inside of my feet, that would get me my inner edge movement. And then when you're center, square, that is your center edges, all right? So the idea of edge control is all about being able to apply all the way up to maximum amounts of body weight to an edge without falling over or losing your balance. So this is what I mean. If you take, so I want you to find something stable for you to hold on to, and then I want you to lean and apply. I'll show you this way. I want you to lean and apply weight into one of your edges as far as you can, just enough so that right before your wheels lift up off the ground. If your wheels lift up off the ground, you've applied too much weight. And if your wheels aren't close to lifting off the ground, then you're not applying enough. That right there is how much you can lean on an edge, how much pressure you can apply to it without losing your balance. Now, the problem comes in is like most people aren't comfortable holding their edges that deeply. You're not used to applying that much weight and putting your whole well-being in the hands of that position, right? That's the scary part. That's where fear kicks in, because it's like, oh, I'm up on one foot, I'm applying all this weight, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna tip over and fall or not. So I call it your skater's spatial awareness, you know, like your roller skate spatial awareness. Just like when you're parallel parking a car, which some of you might not be able to do, or whenever you're backing into a garage and you don't have like a rear camera, you kind of start to learn, or even just pulling into a normal parking spot, you start to learn over time, like, I'm not quite gonna fit in that space. I might be cutting it kind of close. Like you can't see exactly how close, but you can kind of feel how close your car is. You know what I'm saying? You get the same spatial awareness in your skates. You start to feel how close your feet are and whether your wheels are gonna clack onto one another, right? Or you start to feel let's say you have lace locks, those little C-clamp hooks that hold your laces on the upper part of your skates. Some of you might have experienced getting those like caught on one another. Learning how to skate and not let those catch one another is the skill of spatial awareness that I'm describing. Understanding how much room you have to manipulate and maneuver in your skates. All right, that happens over time. So that's not necessarily something you can focus on, but edge control is. So one exercise, if you have space, would be to just hold an edge. Okay, so I know I'm getting kind of close to the camera here, and you might not be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so edge control. One of the exercises you can do to practice edge control, hopefully you have some space. This one's kind of difficult to practice in a small space unless you're focused on maybe spins, since that can involve heavy edges as well. But swerving both feet. This is just like the heel and toe exercise, but this time I'm mostly focused on leaning into my edges and trying to get some curve out of it, all right? This is emphasized whenever you do it on one foot, because now you can apply your whole body weight into your skates in order to get that sway, that curve from side to side. And of course, I'm also steering and changing directions using the windshield wiper technique, which is something that I've covered in the fundamentals course. Basically, the idea of putting more weight in either your heel or your toe. That way you can move your skate easily, right? In order to steer these positions. So That's a brief cover on edge control. The next skill is gonna be single leg maneuvers. So single leg maneuvers is also edge control, what I was just describing, but you can practice your edge control on both feet versus single leg maneuvers would be something like this, right? Or you can do it backwards, right? Single leg maneuvers is also super useful for like whenever you're dancing or doing something, right? You can, let's say if you're doing like a C, right? That's a single leg maneuver as well, because I'm coming up on one foot and then I'm curving on my edges and using my windshield wiper technique in order to steer my skates where I want it to go. So those are all single leg maneuvers. Again, kind of just a general concept, not necessarily defined to a single technique. These things start to get a little bit more and more general sometimes.